Hello all and welcome to another castle defense tutorial. This time I'll be showing you archer defenses using villagers. So what I've set up here is an automated system where, as you can see, I'm in survival mode, where if I walk too close it says the guards have seen me and I'll start lobbing arrows at me. So the arrows at the moment are only going in one direction, not slightly framed to left or right, but that is easily customizable. And what you can also see, I'm not sure if you can see that far, is that the villagers are actually facing the windows. So they're all actually looking out instead of just before looking around doing nothing. So they're all poking their heads outside of the window. And so if I run off over here, run away, and I'll just come over here to this poor lonesome soul who died. I'll give myself guard armor. Now if I walk back over here, dressed up in my guard disguise, they just don't care and they won't attack me. But of course if I start taking off the armor itself and just throw it away, they've seen me again and here comes the arrow. So I'll just quickly pick up my stuff and run away. So they'll keep shooting for a while and then eventually they'll stop firing. But as you can see, it's got quite a nice arc going along there. So, but now that I've got my my disguise back, whoopsie daisies. If I go back over here, they just think I'm a guard. So now I'm going to show you how it works. So for this castle, this is all the redstone that's behind it, with a little bit tucked underneath the castle. So how it works is that we have a hopper clock, which is currently going here with a hopper inside of it, which is responsible for doing all the tests for all of the command block powering in the entire place. So what happens is that this comparator powers this redstone repeater, which then goes along this current here, which that piece has accidentally been destroyed. So what happens is that this pulse comes along here and heads down this track. Now this grass block here is important, I'll get to that in a moment. And what this does is allows the pulse to come along to these 7 command blocks here. What these command blocks are testing for is the position in front of the guards here, where the arrow will land, approximately there, to test if there are players within 8 blocks radius of where the arrow lands. So just a field of vision. If a player is picked up in that position, what happens is that a message shows up saying the guards have seen you, and these command blocks here all summon invisible villagers with a custom name of invisible villager with active effect 14, which is invisibility, with a speed of 0.0001 and health of 1. So what happens is that when a player is detected in one of these points, villagers actually spawn right in front of these guards here. So if I just quickly grab redstone torch, so I've been fiddling around here just before, it says the guards have seen you, and what happens is, whoops, I'm supposed to keep that powered. Invisible villagers are now standing in front of these guards. Now the idea is when they say the guards have seen you, the villagers decide to communicate with other villagers, and so they start to look out the window. Of course you can't help the fact with all the sounds, but yeah. I think he died. Yep, he died. So they're 1 bit of HP and they'll die. And so what happens is that if we come back down to here, is that right on the end here we have an inverter. This block here, thanks to 1.8, gives a kill command to any entity with the name invisible villager. So as soon as this stops, there we go. So they've all died. So the particle effect I can't really do anything about. If anybody does know how to change that particle effect, tell me in the comments. So kills all entities with the name invisible villager. So yeah, so when that is done, the current also comes to this piston. This piston then extends out here, allowing a pulse to come through here to this area here. Now what happens is there is a block here where this command block here, as soon as the block is powered, comes around and sets that back to air. That's why it's currently set as air at the moment. That's important because what happens is the pulse comes through and then it sets off all these command blocks. These command blocks summon arrow entities in front of each one of the villagers at varying heights. So this one's at 0.2, in the next row it's at 0.3, and then the last one it's at 0.4. I just fiddled with that. And they have separate delays, so all the arrows aren't fired at the same time, so it's shot in little sections. And so at the end of all these arrows, there's this command block here which summons a stone block here. This is important to make sure that the hopper isn't continuously activating these arrows here before these arrows are activated, or else you're going to have this arrow shot, then both this arrow and that arrow shot, then then the pulse is going to sort of blend here with both medium shots, and it just goes all nasty. So it's to make sure that this row goes first, this row goes second, this row goes third, and then puts the block back here so the pulse can go again, first, second, third. Now, just for a quick example, if I fly out over here, first, second, third, like that, and then of course the piston's retracted here because they haven't detected a player is there, so the pulse doesn't make its way through. Now, the way that the guard disguise works is that this block here, thanks to 1.8, is also testing the inventory for an item. Doesn't matter what item it is, but within a 30 block radius of the command block, these coordinates here, it's testing for an item with the name guard disguise. So if I take any old item, I could just take this torch actually, and then call it not redstone torch, guard disguise. Now that it's detected it, because it's still getting this pulse from this first set of hopper, it now retracts this. So that completely deactivates the test for command, which then activates all this. So in turn, it completely nullifies the whole shooting arrows and makes it possible to be disguised. And then what we have here is the failsafe. So if a player has got the disguise out here and then drops it and no longer has it, the player then picks up the disguise and they can pick up the disguise and run away and then come back with it. So when those arrows have stopped, just wait for it. There we go. So now that the arrows have been fired, I come back with my disguise and it works perfectly fine. The way this works is by, if we go down here, whoops, this command block here is testing that there is no block here. So this is testing to make sure that this guard disguise thing is working. The other command block is testing to see if there is a grass block here. So what this is doing is testing to see if the villagers are firing and to see if the disguise is working. So if the disguise is working, that will be an air block, and if the villagers are firing, this will be a grass block because the piston has pushed it out. So if that happens, what happens is these two get power to it. At the moment, one of them's air, the other one's not a grass block because the villagers aren't firing. So if I just put this here, what happens is that this block here, all the way back up there, that one, will summon a grass block here. What that will do is send off, it will be there for long enough for one of these pulses to come through for the test block the test block command to update to identify that the player isn't there. And when the player is identified as not being there, I should probably turn this off. And so once they've discovered that the player isn't there, then this is going to turn off, that's going to retract, the villagers are going to stop firing, and yeah, that's pretty much how it works. So this is only a rough prototype really of what I'm going to do. This can be very easily compacted like most of my redstone builds, but what this actually opens up the opportunity for is if a player is coming up to, let's say, a blue base, and they have where are we? So in most PvP games they've got leather armor. You can actually, I believe you can do it if you just make it so that this is called red armor or blue armor and put it on the player, or with a certain color ID, that if you approach that base, the base might have defense systems, it might have arrows. So if a blue player came up to a red base and it discovers that that player doesn't have a blue torso, they can get shot. But if another player comes up who is a blue player, they could enter their base quite easily, whereas red players will simply get shot. So it does open up a big area to improve on for PvP, which I might actually prototype maybe for my next video, who knows. So anyway, this has been Sabersculptor with a tutorial for redstone. If you liked it, like the video. If you want to see more of my stuff that I'm coming up with, hit subscribe, and yeah, Sabersculptor out.